Hello there, it's Professor Stig, continuing with our Audrey 2 Maya character project. This video 17 is going to show you how to make the grouping and the controllers with the code that makes the leaf movements like this possible, as well as this overall collar manipulator. They're all spinning respective to themselves, and it will all be hooked to the main neck mover when we're done. Okay, so let's reset everything, get going. Okay, so we're going to complete this 6th leaf assembly here and use this curve. I'll show you real fast how I made the curve. Going into the front view, create curve tools, Bezier curve tool. When it's in its default mode, it's going to have handlebar tangent like this. We're going to use the broken one so that hitting Y to get back into the tool. I was selected. It thought I wanted to edit that in some way. Let's just hit X to make a sharp point, and then we're going to build our candle, flame, paintbrush, tip shaped controller like that. You're clicking and dragging. Don't close it here. Let's do that after. And go curve points. Hold down C, middle mouse drag. Wake it up. Middle mouse drag until it snaps. See how it's snapping? Let this CV come to you. You don't go and grab it. You just draw it along from the side and encourage it. So we're going to go into object mode. Let's say we love this design. It's pretty good. Object mode, curves, open, close. Preserve as default. Let's go open, close. Part of it disappears. Don't fear. Undo it. I believe twice, and then check your CV, and it works. After all, it is Maya. So there's your curve. Of course, you can modify center pivot, or you can just hit D and C and drag it to where you think it should be as a rotational pivot. Then after scaling and moving it by hitting X, get in the move manipulator, hit X and middle mouse drag it, you can put it in the center of the Maya universe and then modify freeze transformations. And it zeroes it out. But I'm going to delete that one because I like this curve because it matches the others. So here's the magic part for making a successful control orientation. When you open the parent options, you want to turn off the preserve position. So when you click on the curve you want to align with the respective parent joint chain, hit apply. It snaps up. You can also, when this is, now you can close that out and you can go around and just orient all of your controllers by hitting P. Now they're going to move and adopt a position from their parent. Okay, in the control box, we're going to notice that leaf controller is childed to this joint chain. This is where you're going to make a copy of the name, group it, and call it that, group. Just append the word group on there. The pivot will be the same, so you can leave it there. When you understand this moment right here, you can see the curve is all zeroed out. The group above it is zeroed out. As soon as I drag it into a separately and make it an orphan, the group above the curve is going to incur all this offset data. That's what you want. We're going to copy that name, group it. We're going to go group main as an additional extension to the name. We're going to hit D, then V, and snap that to the base of the joint. Because all of these joint chains are going to be included. Let me just check. I think these are all. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna take the main and snap it to the top of the neck. The pivot. Just moving the pivot only. Now, checking the main curve, pivoted on the neck, offset data on the group, above the curve, which is zeroed out. So when you grab that curve, the rotate manipulator is oriented and poised, ready for animation, easy access, and quick understanding. So that's working well. While we have this built right now, we're gonna make sure it moves with this collar group. Okay. Now the collar group is going to, when it rolls, we just want each joint to move from where it stands, not move as a group rotating on a single pivot. We want them to move individually on their own bases. See that? On their own base pivots. To accomplish that, we're going to constrain this joint chain. Okay? So we're going to make, this is not the curve, don't get them confused. The curve has already been built. That is going to be part of a group that the rest of these belong to. We're gonna hook up the actual joint now. So the joint chain, we're gonna copy that name of that leaf base, leaf 6, and say group. Now this pivot needs to be adjusted. Hit D, then V, middle mouse drag it, snap it up there, exit out of the tool, and then copy that name and group it again. So there's double grouping above it. Okay. Now that main one is going to also, just checking the one above it, leaf 6. Let's go do this. So the main is, yep, the main one's pivot is oriented at the neck. So let's go back to group. Let's go look at that pivot. That one goes D, V. That one goes to the top of the spine joint. That's the end. That's the one where the IK handle is hooked to it. We're not hooking it to the IK handle. We're not hooking to the controller. We're just centering the pivot at that position. Now, click on that leaf joint so that we can see the main. The leaf has its own pivot on the group above it. So this is going to be orient constrained via this. So we're going to click the controller, then click on the group above the leaf chain and go orient constraint. Orient constraint dialog box, reset, maintain offset just in case, add. Now when this controller, this collar controller is rolled around, that joint chain is going to move. Okay, setting up the coding to make this curve operate. Before we do that, let's add it to this group here. Wherever this group is, it's the leaf individual control curve main. We could just change it and go leaves collar main. That might be a better name to pick it out of the outliner array here. So we're going to go find this curve in the outliner, and the leaves control collar is right there. Control collar, where are you? Let's minimize a lot of this here. Let's click it here. Leaves control main. There it is. We want to do this right here. This one here. So leaves collar. Oh, here. Leaves collar main. I want it to go into this group. But leaves collar main is a hierarchy. So leaves 6 is going to go into leaves collar main as a child. Now there's a group above it, leaves control main. That one's constrained, parent constrained. They're not hooked together directly, but this leaves controller is hooked up to the top spine of the neck chain. So now when we move this manipulator, the collar is moving with it. Everything's orienting. We seem to have this group lagging behind, so the joint chain is not keeping up. Let's go find out why. It was childed up here. Unfurl it. It looks like, I think this is left over from a previous rigging effort. So let's see. That's the leaf control. I've mixed up the leaf chain versus the leaf controller. This is not uncommon to say that. That happens to all of us when you do something like this. That's why it wasn't acting properly. The leaf, the orient curve is still working. The orient collar, I do feel like this one is not running the joints yet. That's a coding connection. Let's get this curve and that joint chain attached properly. This controller, leaf group control, okay, it's constrained. Leaf collar, let me just roll that. So that's the group I really want this to be in. So here we are, group main for the curve. See the curve, there's no joint chain in there. Leaves collar main. Now, when I move this, if everything's constrained properly, okay, let's collar main, let's move that. They are moving together. So that means this group above this is broken. I'm going to take the leaves collar main. Let's child it to the leaf controls group. So the leaves controller group, when that moves, the leaves controller main moves. Now I just need to constrain that to this neck. So top of the neck, I'm not selecting the IK handle, I'm selecting the joint, going to leaves control main, control click, and go to constrain, parent, translate, option add. Now it should move with this controller. The whole assembly. Good. The curves are in the right spot. Let's check them if they work like we expect. Everything's rolling and the individual leaves are working. Now I just have to get that chain included into this solution. Let's get that chain in there. Let's go locate it. Focus. Hitting F. Now here's the group. See how the orient constraint is hooked to this immediate group above the chain right here? We're going to do one more group. Copy. I think when I pulled it out of the other one, it broke it away. So let's go and orient that joint. Just understand not the step by step, but understand the reasons, and you can figure it out, just like I'm doing. I have been doing this for a long time, and I still have to figure it out and think about every step so that it works. Okay, there is the group above it. That group is going to be the one that is hooked to the top of the neck, the joint. Leaf group main, that's going to be individually constrained right there. Constrained parent, we're just doing translate, so everything stays level and moves predictably when you fly around the whole IK neck assembly. Let the IK handle fly ahead, that's fine, but notice the collar works, the head pivot works, and these will work independently. Okay, now we get to go do the coding part, which is actually very powerful and lets you do a lot. Okay, so we're going to code this leaf curve, control curve. So when it rolls, it moves this joint chain, every single bone up the chain. Okay, so I'm going to save this version. I'll save this 16 as 19A. We'll call this, we'll call this 19B. Okay, saving, professional practice, and many iterations of it. Not just keep saving over the same file, because when it does break, which you probably will, you're going to need to go back. So make some padding for your own sanity. Here we go. Let's open the Windows Animation Editor, Expression Editor. This thing looks like this. We're going to basically go and grab the name under Object Filter, which it is. But this is the options here. Expression Filter, which you can see I've already built code. Don't let that scare you. You just understand this melody here, and then you can do a variation on the theme from there. No problem. It's all makes sense. Object. That's the name of the controller curve. This is the axis we want it to rotate on. Let's copy that. That's going to be added to our code here pretty soon. Leaf 6, also rotating on the X. We just middle mouse drag it here, equate it to what we just copied, and multiply it by 1. Terminate the string with a semicolon and hit create. Well, let's give it a name right now. We're going to call it leaf 6. I'm just doing it separately so you can see more clearly what's going on. Result leaf 7. Well, that's nice. We can rename it leaf. We'll call it leaf final. Final with proper edit. That's how you always update it. So now when we roll that control curve, it's going to rock the leaf to and fro because we've set up the joints properly in the first place. I don't need to hunt and look around and figure out what axis is what. I already know. So the second joint, rotate there, bring that down. Let's go up to our expression name. We're going to go into the leaf that we're building right now. We can copy this, or we can go through the whole sequence and go object name and select it and all that. I think that is kind of a clunky workflow. So we'll just copy this, and since we know our naming conventions because we're so professional, we're going to go rotate. We're just going to append that name, which we know is the next joint up the chain is A. Rotate, edit. So now you see when we rotate the curve, the second joint is turning. I'm going to multiply it by a little more just so that we can see this exponential sort of rotation and extreme curve as it gets extreme curves as it progresses out to the end. Just copy this code. It's just exaggerating the action. That's really what I'm hoping for. I'm going to turn this to 2. And you can see the 2. You can see that code update right here in the action. Well, let's see how the end is spinning around a little faster. Let's make it 2.5. Oh, I have to, no. Well, that makes sense. It wasn't doing what I was hoping. It's because it's not right. Make sure to update the name. Keep it at 2, edit. Now when you roll this thing over, you're going to see the See how the tip is flopping more than the base? That is just very, very powerful. It's simple as copying this code if you want and deleting it and putting it into the last part of your chain here, leaf 6. Paste that in, edit. It should still work. There we go. We have a successfully rigged character up to this point. There we go. Moving the main controller, everything flies with it. We know that we can adjust the collar now for our character and its individual leaves. We can have it, oh, got ahead of myself. Yeah, that works. If you want to do something like add additional axes, it's going to be expression editor, leaf, let's go down to 6. We're going to just copy this code, paste it again, and just update every axis. We're going to go Y. So I'm going to copy that and just paste them in as we go through. And you'll see real fast that everything, upon edit, result, said it did it. We know rotating on the Y-axis is going to twirl that leaf around. Let's continue. Let's go. Let's zero that thing out. Let's take that last code, copy. We're just going to change it to Z's. So, I like to go, just copy that little Z. This is completely professional practice. You don't have to retype everything every time. The top coders do this approach as well. Software developers, I should say. People really coding hardcore stuff. They copy and paste their own work so that it is not so tedious. Look at that. That is powerful and makes it really fun to animate. So there you go. That's how we're going to rig up to this point. The next thing we're going to do is rig a little mouth slider so that your character will be able to do something like this. Okay, that's coming next. All right, see you soon. Professor Stig signing out. Take care.